My name is Christine Fischer and I'm the registered nurse at Together We Can. My day-to-day role can look very different, depending on the day, depending on the client who I see. Honestly, I never really know who's gonna walk through my door. But that's, to be honest, one of my favorite parts of the job too. In a nutshell, I provide the support and care to clients to manage their medical needs, their mental health needs and their physical health needs while they're in our care. And a lot of our clients come into us at a time of some distress or crisis and are at quite a vulnerable state in their lives. And so I offer and provide the support along with, in collaboration with our medical department, that they need to manage those immediate medical needs, but also longer term medical needs and to reach their longer term healthcare goals as they embark on their road to recovery. And a lot of those clients have a long-standing history of trauma, many different types of trauma, right? And so and that's another important piece of the work that we do here as a team, an entire team at Together We Can, and myself included. The work I do is that lens through which we care, and it has to be trauma-informed and it has to be culturally sensitive, and we have to meet that client where they're at. That's the whole point, that's the best care, yeah. Before Together We Can, I became a nurse in 2012 in Toronto, and I worked a couple years in the downtown core of Toronto in adult care in the medical surgical fields. And after a couple years there, I moved west and I found myself at BC Children's Hospital in pediatrics. So I've worked there ever since, mainly in the inpatient medical and surgical wards there, a little bit in their diabetes clinic, and I've done some clinical instructing with a couple local universities, again in pediatrics, and also at Children's have done a position where I've been part of the team rolling out our clinical systems transformation project, where we've transitioned to an online system. So mainly a background in pediatrics since I came to Together We Can. Absolutely. Although there's a lot of differences, there are a lot of similarities, and I'd have to say the overall approach, like the approach I used and I use in pediatrics, and the approach I use here with the clients at Together We Can, it's really not that different. I guess a big piece is I need to get to know my patient or my client and tailor my approach to them. I use a general approach to everyone I work with, but the unique element of my care and the care that I provide, it's when I tailor that approach after I've gotten to know that individual. Like, I'm not gonna approach a 12-year-old the same as I approach a 2-year-old. Just, you can't do it. And so when I get to know my clients here, I'm approaching them and working with them in the way that's gonna work for them, the best way that's gonna work for them. It is a little bit different with adults, but essentially at the end of the day, I'm asking my client here, how can I meet you where you're at? Like how can I walk with you? What does it look like for you to invite me into your care? And for us to do this together, for us to be that partnership, in a way that's gonna work for you. I'm always learning from the clients. They're my best teachers. And it takes you pushing yourself, but meeting someone where they're at, it's asking, it's always asking. It's being open to learn from them. It's not going in with your own expectations or your own agenda or your own bias. It's checking yourself. So much, I love so much. Building relationships with clients. Yeah, getting to know clients on a human level. And yeah, it's about that human connection. To me, it's humbling, it's rewarding. I feel privileged Every day I get to experience that human connection, and walk beside those clients on their journey of health and recovery. Very special. I smile to myself like when I think about certain things that have happened in my day. And the other day, like I was driving home and I was like thinking, that client today came in to do a blood pressure check. And like minutes later, he's sharing his story with me, and like this beautiful story of like where he's at and strength and the hard work he's doing and the struggles too that happen along the way. And just that, again, that human connection and that vulnerability that he invited me into. But we started with a blood pressure check. So like that night when I was driving home, I was like, okay, that's what I love about my job. I love how those blood pressure checks turn into, and it's those blood pressure checks and it's those wound care assessments and it's, all those conversations and client visits. So anyway, very special. Yeah. The clients and staff here, not being in recovery myself, individuals in recovery are the most authentic, genuine, at times vulnerable individuals I've ever met in my entire life. It's so refreshing. It's something I've thought about very frequently after getting into this area of care. And it's just so unique to that population, I find. Like, I'm not encountering that on a daily basis a lot in my life, it's, and that's like a way of being here. That's individuals in recovery, that is part of the language. It needs to be part of the language, and it's special. It's special to witness that. For people who want to do what I do, do it. Like, jump in, absolutely. Like I just mentioned, it's an incredibly special population. It's such rewarding work. And I would also say, in doing this work, get into a habit of checking yourself, checking your bias, self-reflecting. That is a really important piece of the work that allows us to deliver that care through that trauma-informed care approach, through that truly client-centered care, that compassionate care lens. And that's also part of a deeper narrative. That's part of reducing that stigma that is very alive and well still in a lot of our community, in our world. And as care providers doing this type of work, it can start with you checking your bias, you doing that self-reflection. My favorite thing to do outside of work is getting into nature. Whether it's, in the mountains or in the trees or by water, that's a big part of my therapy. I like to go on hikes and trail runs. Just visit our local mountains and get into the quiet, get into the peace. Working at Together We Can, it has changed my worldview and some of my own thoughts and judgments. I do remember, I guess the biggest kind of eye-opener to me, I used to look at people and occasionally say, like whether, I was passing through a harsher part of town or just kind of encountering people on the daily, thinking to myself like, oh, that person looks like they've had a hard life, or, oh, that person doesn't look like an addict or an alcoholic, or, you know, going to meeting people in recovery every now and again. To be honest, I still catch myself. There's like this little, almost like voice in the back of my head. Like I'll meet someone in recovery and that voice will be like, oh, I wouldn't think they were in recovery. Like they don't look like fill in the blank, you know, like someone who uses opiates, or someone who's an alcoholic or has a substance use disorder, and so working with this population at Together We Can, it challenges that voice, like every day, you know? It just reminds me, like, every day, and this is true for everyone, every day when I come into work, I'm a human being sitting in front of another human being. Like, doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter what someone thought you were, thinks you should be. That's probably the most eye-opening experience I've had, is just, you know, thank you TWC for challenging that little voice in the back of my head. I think it's very special to be able to walk into your job every day and feel thankful and participate in human connection. Yeah, that's about it.